family expected he would be sentenced, Brian, to at least some time, 16 years behind bars. This is by no means a win for the Whelan family, but his twin brother David tells me this morning this conviction does bring them one step closer in their fight, they hope, to eventually bringing Paul home.
He is not in a physical state to survive a labor camp, frankly.
David Whelan hasn't heard his brother Paul's voice in almost 2 years. This morning, he learned Paul was sentenced to 16 years behind bars in Russia, 2 years less than the Russian government asked for.
Well, it's not as bad as 18 years, I suppose. We're mostly glad that the conviction, if it wasn't going to be an acquittal, that the conviction is now over, and there are no more procedural obstacles for the U.S. government and the Russian government to engage in finding justice for Paul.
Paul was arrested at a Russian hotel in December 2018 on charges of spying, something Paul and the Whelan family have always denied. Paul, they say, had traveled to Russia for a friend's wedding.
It has always been completely impossible that Paul was a spy. And so we have lived with that fiction the entire time.
And in May, the 50-year-old underwent an emergency hernia surgery, something also weighing heavy on David's mind.
Only my parents have spoken to him. They've only spoken to him once. Paul was denied phone calls until May, and so that was the first time that anybody in our family had spoken to him since his arrest.
And Jen, what is his reaction to the sentencing?
Yeah, obviously he's devastated by this. This is not a win for them. Another thing that David pointed out is the frustration he feels that justice was just not served. He says the majority of this trial was held in secret. He says Paul was not given access to an interpreter when he needed one. So he says in terms of his brother's ability to respond and answer some of these questions from the Russian government, he was not given the opportunity for the due process that an American over there, he says, would expect. Again, they are hoping to continue their fight to bring him home. They're in constant conversations with U.S. diplomats in that effort. And of course, this is something we have been following and will continue to be following very closely. Reporting live this morning, Jen Schatz, 7 Action News.
Indeed, much more to come. Jen, thank you for that live report.